Good evening, boxing fans, and welcome to Enter the Ring Live for Tuesday, May the 11th, 2021, with your host, Mighty Mike,
And AJ Rage,
and hopefully soon to be joined by Eric the Red,
Eric the Red.
checking in from the Pacific Northwest,
Yeah, no doubt. How
the Antifa capital of the world. I'm just
I
kidding.
know. How's your day going, brother, man?
We got some bad news today, man. We could probably start off talking about it. Let's just get it out of the way. Something that's been bothering you and me for the last couple of hours. You actually told me, you called me and let me know. I didn't know what had happened.
Hmm.
But a guy that a guy that really just you and I were big fans of. I remember watching this kid. You know, and here's a funny thing. If you don't know what we're talking about the untimely passing of the former University of Hawaii legend quarterback Colt Brennen. Passed away today at the age of 37. They say peacefully, surrounded by family, at a hospital somewhere here in Orange County, California. Um, I mean, there's so much we could devote an entire hour plus just talking about what the guy meant to you and me, because um, he just was, man, just an amazing football player. He was so fun to watch, and people don't even know this. I remember you, AJ, years ago. Didn't you speak to his dad? His dad
Yeah,
contacted you years ago
yeah.
when this was when Colt was in between, University of Colorado and then Saddleback College, and he was looking for a place to continue playing. And he actually reached out to you, I think, about possibly coming out and playing for the Smash and the semi-pro leagues.
Yeah. And it was just ironic that at the time that he got turned on to by some people that I knew too about Saddleback College. I had a couple guys that were playing with me at the time that were assistants and stuff, had done
And
stuff over
Saddleback,
there.
yeah,
Yeah, at Saddleback College, where he ended up eventually going and took them to a national championship. And then at that point, obviously got the 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 looks from June Jones and went on to the University of Hawaii, and he rewrote the storybook as far as college athletics and University of Hawaii in Hawaii.
still holds quite a few records for Division I quarterbacks. I believe career touchdown passes, yards in a season. There were quite a few. There were one or two smaller ones that got broken just recently, the last couple of years. But you got to understand when Colt, when he did it back in the early 2000s, but 2007 is when he took Hawaii to that, to an undefeated season where they ended up eventually losing to the Georgia Bulldogs in the Sugar Bowl. And anyways, the game was even different back then. That was only 13 years ago, but it was even different back then. It wasn't the game it is now, where it's so pass friendly with the way that the offenses are constructed and the way that you can't touch the receivers and stuff. And I know, just watching Cole, I mean, we watched him. I remember watching. I didn't miss a Hawaii game during his
No,
tenure. I probably maybe missed one game, and then I probably went back and watched the highlights or watched it on replay. I watched every single game he played. He dominated. He was just so fun to watch, man. And then, the subsequent being, he was drafted by the Redskins, proceeded to put the best numbers of any rookie quarterback in the preseason, and then gets cut and gets waived.
his numbers are still the best that they've ever had from a rookie with the Washington Redskins. Even when he
Yeah,
went
his
over to
passer rating was like 139 or something
yeah.
ridiculous.
And like I said, I mean, he had a huge impression in my life and in my conversations that I had with him and stuff. And such an impression that I actually named my son after him.
Yeah.
As you can see behind me, and that's the actual picture that he signed when I was telling him about it, that he sent to my son. And like I said, I mean, it's tragic. It just shows you these are the times that we live in. It just seems like every day, man, we're losing another person, who should have been something so much more. I mean, to us, he was already something great, but it's unfortunate that a lot of the world maybe didn't know his name and what he could have done for football, or what he could have
Yeah.
just done in general. Because I mean, he did a lot for the University of Hawaii. He didn't try to be different. He really ingrained himself in the culture of Hawaii with everything that he did, coming out doing the haka and everything. I mean, he
Came,
did these
came,
things.
yeah, came back for his senior season when he could have easily been a second
Yeah,
round draft pick
you
after his
just don't
junior
see that
season.
any. You don't see
Came
that
back.
anymore. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but that kind of leads into boxing. But obviously it's that character that we're missing. We just don't see that kind of character anymore. Back in the days,
Loyalty and commitment. You don't see it.
when your car doesn't start and it's late at night and you're in a supermarket, parking lot and stuff, and a guy comes on and somebody asks, hey, you need a hand, and there's no threat there. They don't just walk past you like you're not even there, just ignore you because they don't want to take those extra few seconds to see if you get home safe because they don't care whether you're man, woman, or child. They don't care. Those characteristics in people seem to be just dissipating
Yeah.
every year. And it's unfortunate because it was funny. The other day I was over at Home Depot. I had to go pick up a few things, this random thing. And the guy, I had asked this one guy, about something, and I thanked him and stuff like this. And he extended his hand. You don't see that a whole lot. And when me and this man shook hands, you should have seen the looks on people's faces. Like
They were like shocked, like,
you
oh,
would
you're
have
going to
thought
touch him?
you would have thought that I was French kissing this guy in the middle of fucking Home Depot. It was ridiculous. But it was such a kind gesture that I really thanked him and stuff for his help at that point. And as I was leaving, I actually spoke to the manager that they have out there and stuff. And I gave him a little bit of reward. I said, you know what? That's an exceptional employee over there, so.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but man, God, speaking of Colt Brennan, there hasn't been a quarterback that I've been excited about, because I do watch college football. I don't watch the NFL.
yeah, me too.
But I do watch college football, and nobody has quite excited me quite like him. I am excited to watch young DJ continue his career
Absolutely.
with Clemson. I'm excited for him, and that's because we have a connection to the family. We've known the family for years, but I don't know if I'll ever see a quarterback that was just so exciting like Colt. I mean, he would bring these guys back from they could be down 3 touchdowns, and as long as there was 5 minutes on the clock, that didn't mean nothing to Colt Brennan. He could bring you back. And in so many games he battled. I remember the game against the University of Nevada multiple times where he beat Colin Kaepernick, and they were just back and forth battles. He beat Colin Kaepernick every time they played, and he just put up huge numbers. Played when they played against teams like San Jose. There was always a good tough rivalry between San Jose. When they played Boise State, I remember for a year or two they were, Boise State, this was their heyday. They were always on the short end of this thing. He came back and beat Boise State,
and he beat him when they had the one guy that was a running back that was actually being looked upon as as a Heisman Trophy guy, and Boise State actually went on to still have a pretty good season that year. But I remember we were over at Shamrocks and we were watching that game, and what a game! Just what a game!
Yeah. But anyways, man, rest in peace, Colt Brennan, man.
Rest in peace, Colt Brennan, man. It was a hard pill to swallow today, man. Pill to swallow.
Hawaii has had some good quarterbacks since him. I don't know if they'll ever have one quite like him. I mean, they thought the same thing about Timmy Chang, and then Colt comes along and just blew some of Timmy Chang's records, which were unbelievable. Blew him off the map. And then they've had a couple good guys since then. They had Jeremiah Masoli for a while, didn't they? Then they had they got Cole McDonald, another not a Colt, but a Cole McDonald, who's a good quarterback. He's playing in that spring league right now, but I don't know if they'll ever have a quarterback like Colt Brennan. He's got to be the legendary, the number one quarterback in University of Hawaii.
I reached out to his family, the ones I still have contact with, and just to send our condolences and stuff from not just myself and my brothers, and nothing about the show, just because I mean, like I said, he was something special, and he's going to be sorely missed, even though he wasn't playing football at the time before his demise. Just his presence and how and the type of person that he was is going to be sorely missed by a lot of people. I know for myself personally, and you.
And you think, like you said, you think of what could have been, like why? I think at the time Jim Zorn was the head coach of Washington, and you're thinking, why did you not give this kid an opportunity?
It didn't make any sense.
It didn't make any sense to me.
Washington fell on hard times that year and stuff. And one of the major
they haven't had a quarterback since then. They didn't
just have a quarterback, bro. Year. They had a franchise quarterback. If he would have been molded, if he would have been just nurtured and just put into the system, because this is a kid who, unlike a lot of guys coming out of college into the NFL, he had a high football IQ. Everybody always said he did some coaching afterwards for a while, but I mean, he had a high IQ as far as football. That's kind of like what DJ has, Robbie Goulet's son, who plays for the University of Clemson. You see that more and more with athletes today. Same thing in boxing. It's the guys that have the high IQ, the thinkers. How many times the trainers, I know your trainers probably in the past told you, boxing is more mental. You got to be smart. You got to know to do the little things. You get hurt, take a knee, hold, whatever. Guys forget these things, and you just question yourself, like, where's your IQ at this point?
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's our little homage to Colt Brennan, man. Rest in peace, Colt.
Rest in peace, Colt.
Let's go ahead and not a whole lot went on this weekend in boxing in terms of the scope of the numerous shows, but we obviously are going to talk about the big one that happened this past weekend, this past Saturday in Arlington, Texas, at the stadium there. Broke a record, broke a United States, I think North American indoor attendance record at 73,000 people for the Canelo Billy Joe Saunders fight. Of course, we all
What
know
were the final
Billy,
numbers on that?
73,000.
Holy moly.
So it blew the other record away, which I think was in the low to mid 60,000. So I think about a $10,000 swing, a 10,000 person swing in favor. So basically, they broke the record here. That's a record that might not be broken anytime soon, unless Canelo fights again against somebody, I guess an equally important fight or attractive fight, so to speak. I don't necessarily know if the Caleb Plant fight is as attractive as the Billy Joe Saunders fight, because I think Billy Joe Saunders did bring a lot of, I don't know how many Brits were able to travel across the pond to come to the fight, but I do know that it kind of made it like a worldwide, or at least European fans tuned in to see that fight.
Hey, real quick, bro, before we jump into the Canelo fight, I'd like to talk about a fight that happened on Friday. We didn't get a chance because obviously we took the day, but the fight that happened over in I believe it was in Russia with the undefeated
Liam Smith
against Kurbanov.
Yeah, Kurbanov. Yeah. Well, that fight was on early Friday. I think the start time here was about 8:00. The main event went off, I think, like 10:30.
Yeah, from Eksternberg or something like that. Eksternberg or something.
It was somewhere in Russia.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Siberia. Impressive crowd there, very stoic. The Russian fans are very, very stoic. But I don't know what to say, man. Liam Smith, man, that guy just keeps coming up on the short end of the stick. And this time, I think he did enough to win that fight and to take that title. But the judges saw it differently.
Yeah. I mean, you said it too, bro. When we were talking on the phone, you were like, if he doesn't knock this guy out, you're not going to get the decision in Russia.
No.
And I'm not trying to knock anybody from Russia because it happens everywhere. It happens in the UK. It happens in the United States. I don't care where it is. Yeah. Hometown is hometown. I know there's a lot of push behind Kurbanov and stuff like this coming into this fight. This was his first major test since he won a 12-round decision, a hard-fought 12-round decision against Diego Chavez, who you remember fought Keith Thurman. Now, this isn't the same Diego Chavez, and this is the 154-pound version of Diego Chavez.
Yeah.
Off 3 or 4 losses. But the one thing is everybody talked about his power and, what he was going to be able to do. I got to be honest with you. I feel so bad for Beefy, for Liam Smith. The guy really had the right recipe and how to beat this guy. He fought him toe-to-toe. I believe he hurt the guy numerous times.
He dropped him in the first round.
Yeah.
First or second round, and they didn't call it a knockdown. The referee immediately waved it off like it was a slip. And I'm telling you, still to this day, nobody has seen the replay of that.
Well, not only that,
he grabbed it from the.
Yeah. Smith hurt him. I think it was the 4th or 5th round. And I remember the referee came in for whatever reason. Even they were talking with the announcers and he separated
multiple times.
Yeah, I was like, what are you
extended
doing?
warnings and breaks for, when he would finally do his job and give Kurbanov a warning for excessive holding, he always did it right at about the time Liam Smith was pouring it on. I mean, Liam Smith's corner was going absolutely nuts. They were screaming.
They were screaming. I mean, it got so bad that I remember I gestured over to my wife and I go, I know they're upset, but they got to remember where they are. They're in Russia. You still got to get out of there.
Yeah,
and
you
stuff,
still got to, yeah.
But it gave me bad memories of when Lucien Boutte and his atrocious somewhat victory against
Labrado
Andrade in Canada. It's just, these are the kind of things that just kill things. I mean, we don't want to go too much on it, but I feel bad. I went back and I watched the fight again, and I definitely had Liam Smith up on the cards going into that final round. It's unfortunate, but I don't think we've seen the last of Liam Smith. I know they're talking about now this guy possibly matching up against the winner of Tim Tszyu after Tim Tszyu decimates Zarafa in his next fight. I think Liam Smith would have been a more interesting fight and a better tool in which to gauge Tszyu's where he's at right now in the 154-pound division than this guy.
Because Liam Smith does have common opponent. I mean, he does have the Munguias. He does have the
Canelo Alvarez. I mean, this guy,
the Liam Williams 2 times. So he's had some.
Beat him twice.
Yeah. So he's had some top quality guys on his resume that would be a good measuring stick to see kind of where Zoo's at. Is Zoo really world class or is he just regional? I believe he's world class, but the
Oh
story's
no,
still being
yeah.
written. Story's still being written on him. So
Well, no, absolutely. And it's like anybody who doesn't know. I mean, go back and just watch Liam Smith, his first fight and his second fight against Liam Williams, a much more dominating performance than Demetrius Andre put on just recently with Liam Williams and stuff. So that is what it is and stuff. But I just thought we would kindly briefly
yeah.
talk about that, to kind of give Liam Smith, because none of the other publications out there are going to even care. They're just gonna whatever.
Yeah,
So,
it was just like a one-off kind of like, or just it was to them, it was just like a swing bout, not really giving it the attention it deserves. But
and it was a good fight too.
let's
So.
talk a little. Well, since you mentioned Zoo Zarafa, that fight was just signed a couple days ago. Actually, I don't know if you saw the first press conference, and then the second press conference happened today at the actual Newcastle Event Center where the fight's going to be taking place. Very, very different press conference than the first one. The first one, Zarafa was very, very disrespectful and very mouthy. This one, he was almost subdued. I think reality is starting to kind of set in. Tim Zoo's like, he's steady. He's like a duck on water, on
It
the
doesn't
surface.
make any ripples.
Yeah, on the surface, he's nice and cool, but underneath the water, his feet are going. But Zarafa actually, for a moment today, I kind of started feeling a little sorry for him. I didn't feel too much sorry for him a couple of days ago during the press conference because he was saying some outlandish stuff. And maybe it worked because the venue sold out in 24 hours. Fight is signed, sealed, delivered, sold out. It's happening July the 7th, which is a Wednesday, which is kind of odd, But then again, these last couple of fights have been midweek, and it doesn't bother me one bit because that just means I get to wake up early on a Wednesday morning and watch the fight. It'll be coming from Newcastle, Australia in the evening time. This is the fight that Michael Zarafa kind of talked himself into. I think Zoo with the pandemic still kind of, I don't know if I'd use the terms raging, but still kind of with us, the likelihood of him being able to travel or fighters willing to travel to Australia and being quarantined and having to stay for 14 days is really not an option right now. So it's like, well, okay, well, who better to stay busy with than the guy that's been calling me out, showed up at his last fight, just keeps running his mouth, Michael Zarafa. Michael Zarafa made some comments. Well, if his name was Tim Smith, he wouldn't get the attention. Blah, basically saying that Tim is living off of Costa's name, and that's not true because yes, his last name is Zoo. We all know that, but he's doing his own thing, and he's been doing his own thing since he started. His father's, I'm not gonna say his father is absent, but physically he is. His father lives in Russia, has been in Russia for several years. So Tim's doing this all on his own. For anybody to say, well, Tim's just another, like JC Chavez or Chris Eubanks or Conor Ben. No, this guy's doing it on his own. He doesn't have his dad hovering over his shoulder like being a mouthpiece for him like these other fighters do.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think in this fight, I think Tim's gonna really live up to his nickname, the Soul Taker, because I mean, you got to look at it this way. Zarafa's had some success. I mean, you can't gauge anything what he did against, honestly, I felt really bad watching the fight. I didn't want to watch it. And his fight against Anthony Mundine, his 1-round blowout over a guy that hopefully it was the last we've seen of Anthony Mundine, an amazing player, back in the days, with rugby or whatever, but had his certain points that he was able to be successful in boxing, but is really past it. And he's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, he's 10 years past it. He should have stopped fighting 6, 7, 8 years ago.
But when you have that celebrity status in a country like Australia, unfortunately, sometimes you're going to get guys that are going to just stick around a little bit longer and stuff. Obviously, he had the 2 fights with Jeff Horn. The first one, he stops Horn. The second one, he loses a decision. Before that, he lost a 12-round decision to Kell Brook, this is right when Kell Brook was coming off of his loss to Gennady Golovkin. So it's a good fight for Zoo in the sense where he's fighting a guy that's been in with better class of opponents than Zoo's fought at this point. Is that going to help Michael Zarafa? I don't think so, because at the end of the day, he's still got to fight Tim Zoo, and Tim Zoo is just a much better fighter.
Yeah, and Zarafa's shown a track record of getting busted up, taking shots, bleeding. It's going to be ugly, I think. I think Tim Zoo's he's going to punish him. I think he's going to I think he's going to be more patient this time. He's going to be more patient than he was with Hogan. When he fought Hogan, he really tried to go out there and take Hogan's head off. I think he's going to be more patient with this one, and not because he has to be cautious. I just think he wants to prove to himself, hey, I can be patient, I can pace myself, but he's going to inflict some damage on Michael Zarafa. And I think Michael Zarafa, the reality, like I said, is setting in. He was almost subdued today at the press conference. It's almost like he didn't want to be there. It's very strange. Even the announcer said it's a very different Michael Zarafa than we saw a few days ago. So, but whatever.
I look at it this way. I look at it. It's probably going to be a carbon copy of what Zoo did to Jack Brubaker, being the fact that Zarafa and Brubaker kind of almost
similar style,
similar styles. Brubaker wasn't able to do the things that they thought he was going to be able to do to Zoo because of Zoo's, not just because of his pinpoint accuracy with his punches and his punch selection, but it's his patience. He waits for that shot, but he doesn't wait too long. And when he does hurt you, he doesn't just go in there wild like you see. I mean, come on. How many fights are we into with the Charlo brothers? And still these guys, they get you hurt and they start swinging to the fences. That's not Tim Tszyu.
No. Tim Tszyu is very, very measured. Yeah, very measured. So I don't know, something about, I don't know, it's in the breeding. I don't know, it's his genetics. His dad was very measured too. I mean, his dad was a killer, but I mean, but not recklessly. So
no. So let's jump over to, you want to jump over to the
main event?
Fights, the
big ones.
There were some other fights over in on the undercard of the Canelo fight. I know guys like Mark Castro and some of the other ones, you know, some of the ones that they're trying to pump up, but did you get a chance to watch the Frank Sanchez against Aguilera?
You know what? I listened to another podcast before the fights happened, and somebody was bad mouthing the undercard, saying how atrocious it was. And I never like to say that going in, because you just never know. You might end up getting like a highlight reel type of fight. But this undercard, I don't want to say lived up or lived down to the billing. It was atrocious. The entire undercard to me was just not good to watch. I mean, and then the way some of the fights ended, I mean, we won't even talk about the Davis brothers, right? The two young kids, Mark Castro, he's only 3-0. He's fighting on Canelo cards. He's obviously somebody that Eddie Hearn signed a matchroom, and they're going to try to push this kid. I don't really see anything. The heavyweight, the Frank Sanchez, the way that the fight ended with and it wasn't just the one illegal punch in the back of the head. There were multiple throughout the fight.
Multiple punches. Frank Sanchez, Nagy was having his successes in the fight. I'm not saying he was winning the fight, but Sanchez wasn't steamrolling him like everybody thought he was. I mean, he was this huge, favorite and stuff. So
the most damaging punches from Sanchez were illegal punches.
Yeah, and to see a guy like Sanchez out there already talking about, I want Josh, I want this. I mean, some of these guys got to start living in reality. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we'll talk about Berlanga in a little bit, but you're absolutely right. The whole entire card was that way. Even Kieran Conway, who I actually thought had a good chance against TKO, he just completely, I mean, you have to question if this guy even wants to fight anymore. He's one of these guys who looks like a physical specimen, goes in there and just has his moments and just doesn't have that killer instinct.
In the ninth round, I think I told you over the phone, in the ninth round, right, of a very uneventful fight, a fight that was so uneventful that I'm comfortable saying that was the probably the most boring fight I've watched in its entirety in several years. It was a jab fest. Neither guy could string together more than one punch at a time. It was a completely boring. But what was the most frustrating thing to me of the entire fight, even more frustrating than actually watching the fight, was to hear Sergio Mora talk this guy up.
Sissoko, yeah.
Sissoko, talk him up like we were witnessing something phenomenal. This guy showed that not only does he not really understand the game. When he got hit with that uppercut in the ninth round, right? He got hit with an uppercut that dropped him. He turned his back on Conway and just paused for a second and then decided to go down like the pain was setting in. And meanwhile, Conway looks at the referee. It's like, I'm screaming at the TV.
I know.
Why the F are you looking at the referee? The referee didn't tell you to stop. You need to punch this guy until the referee makes you stop. If you would have pressed forward and punched, the referee would have had no choice but to stop the fight, because the fighter at that point was deemed defenseless. And he wasn't smart enough to take a knee. He turned slowly, turned his back like that was just going to stop the punches from coming.
That was the complete opposite of what was happening in the Frank Sanchez versus Nagy fight. Sanchez was at the point where he was hitting Nagy in the back of the head, knowing that he was going to gesture to the referee. When he did that, Sanchez would come in. He hits Nagy with this huge, his biggest punch of the fight, and doesn't do anything to him. But the point is that you got Sanchez showed that he's got a lot of dirty tactics. The guy Sissoko that fought another fight with Conway needs to retire. Sissoko, I don't see him doing anything. I don't even see how he makes 154 pounds. He doesn't look like a 154 pounder to me, but that's a whole nother story. But I'm going to tell you the fight that really, right before we get to the main event, that really, really kind of bothered me. And don't get me wrong. there was, and maybe the end result would have ended the way it went.
Yeah.
But that was a Takayama versus Edwin Soto fight. I've seen Edwin Soto now in probably about 6 fights. You know, I'm not overly impressed with him. He's a tough kid, doesn't have the power that people say that he has and stuff.
No.
Takayama is a guy who's retired a couple times in the last, 10 years. He's a legend in the ring, what he's
37
done.
years old.
He gives you this impression in the beginning, like, does this guy know anything about boxing? But then you see what he does, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, this guy, he's a warrior. And I'm gonna tell you now, they ripped this opportunity against a guy in Soto who was starting to wilt.
He was starting to slow down.
Big time.
And
he was starting to feel those punches that didn't look very powerful from Takayama, but the accumulation was starting, and you saw it on Soto's face.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, if you did watch the card, Lawrence Cole abruptly and for no reason at all jumped in and waved off the fight.
Yeah.
They had landed a couple punches on each other. Takayama was in the process of throwing and landing his own combination when Lawrence Cole just jumped in and waved it off. It's like he'd seen enough, or there was somebody in his ear saying, let's get the main event going. It was the strangest thing, but this is not something that should come as a surprise to anybody, because Lawrence Cole, for the last 2 decades, is the consensus #1 worst referee in boxing. By far, he is the worst referee in boxing.
Absolutely.
Hands down. Followed, not even closely, but followed probably, I would say Russell Moore is probably #2. And then the guy, Howard Foster out of the UK, is probably #3. #1 would have been the gentleman who did I forgot his name, Marlon something, who did the Andrade fight, but he's no longer with us. He died of cancer a few years back. But Lawrence Cole is atrocious. He only got the job that he got because his dad at one time was the Texas commissioner, who's since moved on. Lawrence Cole continues to get assigned these fights, and it's just embarrassing. He doesn't even understand the game of boxing. He can really hardly put one foot in front of the other. If you look at the guy, he's just a walking mess.
He doesn't even look like he even paid attention to most of the bout, bro. But what really got me was the fact that for the people that paid for this, that were paying for the subscription and everything that was going on with the zone, had to endure the Frank Sanchez, mess. And then they had to endure, the Senseico Conway board fest. And they finally get a good show in Soto and Takayama. And a show that it looked like it was going to be a quick night for Soto, but it didn't turn out that way. And Takayama was actually getting stronger while Soto was starting to wilt, and all of a sudden they decided to just pull the rug out from underneath us to get on with the main event. I'm like, whoa. It's another thing where you just, how many times is going to happen in Texas,
Yeah, horrible undercard.
And it was kind of heartbreaking for Takayama, a guy who actually took the fight on short notice.
Yeah, less than a month's notice.
The guy was in phenomenal shape. I mean, come on. I couldn't believe it, dude. What the guy was, I mean, he was just doing some really amazing things in there, not spectacular, but getting it done.
Yeah, he was hanging tough, that's for sure. Let's go ahead and talk about the main event. Canelo, Billy Joe Saunders retires on a stool after 8 rounds. So that's considered, I guess, an 8th round TKO, right? They never really made it to the 9th round. So your impressions of the fight? I mean, I think I didn't really make an official prediction here, but I think while we were texting back and forth, I said Canelo's either wins a wide UD or he stops him late. I mean, 8, I guess, is kind of late. Between 8 and 9 is kind of late. But I figured Billy Joe would look competitive the first few rounds because he's crafty, and then Canelo would start to break him down. And that's exactly what happened. And Canelo from round 1 was throwing hard punches. And I think for a moment there, he got a little bit too one punch happy, and he was really trying to load up with just an amazing, just a highlight reel kind of knockout kind of punch, and allow Billy Joe to kind of take a couple of those mid rounds. I don't know if you scored the fight, but I scored the first round for Billy Joe only because he was the more active and landed more punches. And then 5th and 6th for Billy Joe. Canelo won every other round, in my opinion. He won 2, 3, 4. 7 and 8 were close, but you could see it towards the end of 8 is when he hurt Billy Joe, and he really started to Billy Joe started to kind of wilt. You saw those punches having an effect, and of course the big right uppercut. It was kind of like a half uppercut, half right. And
goes back to like we were talking about. Yeah,
he just moved right into it. Right, he just moved the wrong way. He went left when he should have went right, and he caught that eye, man, and you immediately saw it. You immediately saw the damage it inflicted.
I tell you what was impressive. I mean, obviously at the time of the stop, when when the corner decided to stop the fight because Billy was obviously had some serious damage to the eye. I know they sent him to the hospital right afterwards. Canelo was leading on all the cards. Tim Cheatman had it 77-75, Max Galuka had it 78-74, and Glenn Feldman had it 78-74. I would go more with 77-75 because I do agree Billy Joe started having some success in those rounds where Canelo started to get one punch happy, kind of like what happened with Gennady Golovkin in his fight against Kell Brook, when Abel Sanchez told him, "Hey, let's go back to basics, get the jab going, let's set this thing up."
Billy had a great 5th and 6th round. That 5th round, he was starting to double up on the jab, and even Carl Froch said it. And that's something I want to talk about too after this. Was Carl Froch, who I thought brought he made the broadcast. Carl Froch knows
there's a high ring IQ.
He knows what the F he's talking about. He's a great commentator.
You know what I was thinking about that too, about Carl Froch.
I wasn't the biggest fan of him as a fighter.
No, but
as an announcer.
At 168 pounds, the one fighter who I would honestly, next to David Benavidez, who I would say would give Canelo Alvarez that tough, would be the Cobra Froch, because he was that kind of a fighter, man. I mean,
he was a tough guy.
He was a tough guy. He could punch. He used that jab. He could move. I mean, he attacked when he needed to attack. But getting back like what you were saying was, I saw in the beginning Canelo came out, and I definitely believe that he wanted to stop him early. That's why he was really loading up with these punches. That was my prediction, was it was going to end fast. Mm-hmm. Billy Joe was able to absorb those. I think a lot of it had to do with that huge ring, being able to move around the way he was able to, you know what I'm saying? Canelo was able to cut off the ring, but even when you're cutting off a ring on a 24-foot ring and stuff, they're still giving a little bit of wiggle room and stuff. But Billy Joe, to credit to him, was able to absorb some of those early punches. Obviously, they were to the body, nothing to the head. But I think what was the most impressive about the punch that Canelo did land was the fact that it came at a flat angle, just flat. It wasn't off to the side. It was straight up and flat, and it caused that damage, kind of like if you ran headfirst into a wall. Severe damage. I didn't have any ill feelings for Billy Joe or his corner for saying that's it, because that is a possibly career-ending injury, the orbital bone or whatever other damage. We don't even know the extent of it still to this point.
Well, could you imagine 1 or 2 more big shots land on that eye?
Oh,
I mean, anything can cave. You can cave in the side of your face. I mean, those things happen.
Detached retina, it's done.
Well, we're not made of steel. We're flesh, blood, and bone. You know what I mean? So, no. Listen, there's a lot of people that want to throw shade at Billy Joe. Oh, he quit. Blah blah. I think I saw Chris Eubanks. He was doing some kind of live stream and he was laughing and joking. It's like, Billy Joe already beat you. I mean, he's not looking at his rear view. What are you looking back at? You have done nothing. You stunk it up a week ago against a guy, and I'm not going to call the guy a nobody because I respect everybody that gets in the ring, but against a guy that nobody even knew who the hell he was. The guy Morrison or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Nobody even knew who that guy was, and you stunk it up against that guy. You have no.
He was just local. He was local tax, is all he was.
It's very simple. Billy Joe Saunders fought the biggest fight so far in the last several years, right? The biggest fight. I mean, the numbers show it. The biggest fight against the number 1 pound for pound biggest star in boxing, and I think he put a good account of himself, and I don't think he has anything to hang his head in. And Tyson Fury said the same thing too. He waited a day. He probably wanted to collect his thoughts, and he put a nice message out there saying that, a lot of people saying this have never dared to be great. Billy Joe dared to be great, and he did. I mean, he did. Yeah, his antics before the fight were a little bit whatever, but once the fight was signed, once the ring thing got sorted out and all that nonsense, I mean, Billy Joe was business. You even saw him in the if you watch any of the videos on the Zone, you even saw that in there while he was getting his hands taped. It's customary for the other camp to send somebody in, and then of course the referee's there, and he just was like, hey, it's fight time now. It's business. God bless you all. God bless you all. Saying God bless you to the other team. He's not a bad guy.
No,
he did what he had. He did what he had to do to kind of create some buzz, and he got people talking about the ring and all that stuff. I kind of knew it was a ploy all along. I'm like, Billy Joe's not going to pull out of the fight.
I think it's partial ploy, and I think it's partial genetics. They both have that gypsy mentality. They tend to think that the gypsy way is the winning way. I wonder, because I mean, I don't know the full story behind it, but I know Anthony Joshua this morning when I woke up, Anthony Joshua was sending out tweets like crazy, basically trying to get, Tyson Fury to take that worm off the hook and get into this fight, because for some reason now it's kind of out of Joshua's hands, it's in Fury's hands, and it doesn't look like it's going very far. I know you said it a long time ago, bro, that you don't think this fight's going to happen, but I wonder how much of this loss being the fact that Billy Joe and Tyson Fury in their camp were very, very confident. They didn't see what the world saw in Canelo, and they felt that this was just going to be another night at the office. And it didn't turn out that way.
Tyson was quoted as saying it's going to be a masterclass by Billy Joe. Now, Billy Joe was able to do to Canelo for 12 rounds what he did in rounds 5 and 6, maybe. But that's a big maybe.
Against a fighter that doesn't have the resources and the ring IQ and the overall intestinal fortitude that Canelo has. Canelo does too much work in the gym to just sit back and let rounds tick off and let a guy be successful. He's gonna figure it out. He had a couple rounds where he had to figure out, because Billy's slippery, where other guys, what people don't understand is that people can say, oh, well, Canelo showed some vulnerability. Yeah, he also showed an ability to lose a couple rounds without taking any damage and come back and do what he did. It's like a chess match against a high-level opponent in Billy Joe Saunders. We're not talking about a guy who is coming off of a loss. We're not talking about a guy who is at the end of his career. We're talking about a guy in his prime, undefeated, one of the top 168 pounders in the world, a guy who they say is highly avoided. I still don't believe Demetrius Andre wants anything to do with him. No. And Canelo goes in there once again. So, I mean, you got to look at it this way. Canelo has just about cleaned out the entire 168-pound division, with the exception to a guy who looks like he's not going to be there very much longer, and David Benavidez, and the one last piece, the one last gem that's going to be in the ring to give him what he wants to ultimately capture. And this is going to be the hardest one, because I don't see Caleb Plant taking this fight. And I don't think money's got anything to do. They're going to have to really dump a boatload of money on Caleb Plant, because I just don't think Caleb Plant is going to do this fight. I just don't see it.
Yeah, there's, it's a fight that should be easy to make, but there, of course, there's going to be some pushback. There's going to be this and that. And, Caleb Plant's, he's a good boxer. I'm not gonna say he's not a good boxer. He's a good boxer. He has moments where he looks good, but overall, he doesn't have the toughness. He doesn't even have the skill, really, I think, of a Billy Joe.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. If you put Billy Joe against Caleb Plant, who wins? I take Billy Joe Saunders.
I think Billy Joe Saunders beats him 8 days a week. I just think he's too good of a boxer. I think he's too slick. Caleb Plant, he's more of a boxer puncher. He doesn't have a hard punch, but he'll stand there and trade. And that will be his downfall against Canelo, because where Billy Joe was able to avoid a lot of those big, powerful shots, Caleb Plant won't. And Caleb Plant has been known to get marked up and busted up and this and that.
Dropped.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. But he's gonna prolong this. They're talking about hopefully September, which is Mexican Independence Day weekend. September the 18th is what they're talking. But you're right, bro. I see them kind of maybe stretching this thing out and maybe just.
It's unfortunate, because I know Canelo he made a reference about Gennady Golovkin, because I think he already knows, and his camp knows, that Caleb Plant is not gonna, he doesn't want this fight. His own people know, if we can't beat Billy Joe Saunders, why are we going to go after the guy that just destroyed Billy Joe Saunders?
I think the tactic they're going to use is they're going to say something like, well, the WBA, the mandatory is so and so, and if we don't fight our mandatory, we're gonna get stripped of the title, and then they're gonna get stripped.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna ask you real quick, bro. What can the sanctioning bodies do to kind of force the hand of Caleb Plant?
Well, you got to look at the organization. I believe he owns is it the WBA? WBA, 168-pound title. Is it WBA
or WBO? No. Billy Joe Saunders is WBO.
Yeah, Canelo just took that.
Yeah. I'll look at it right now. But go ahead.
I believe it's the WBA title. And if it's the WBA title, the WBA is the most corrupt of them all.
That's Suleiman, right?
No. That's WBC.
Yeah.
WBA is the one where they've got multiple champions in each weight. They just gave out another belt. There's like 3 champions now at 160 pounds or something like that for the WBA. But either way,
no, he's actually the IBF, bro.
Oh, he's the IBF. So the IBF. We'll see. So maybe, I don't know, man. Maybe they say, well, he's got to fight his mandatory first or blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I just don't feel confident that fight's going to happen next because this is boxing and these things never happen the way they're supposed to. They just don't. I mean, for the last 3 months, we've been hearing about Tyson Fury, AJ, and they still can't get this fight signed. Something tells me that.
Well, here's the thing is too, bro. if you look at Canelo's people, and I know they're not going to sit around and wait for it, you got to look at it right now. Canelo's holding the WBA, the WBC, and the WBO super middleweight titles. Does he really need that IBF to be considered? I mean, he's already the Reebok magazine champion.
Well, he wants to. He wants.
I know he wants to unify, but if you got a guy that's not willing to step up to the plate, and you know, at the end of the day, Caleb Plant's not. You're going to have people out there that are Canelo haters. The bottom line is, it's like the Triple Crown in racing. You know, you can go out and you can win the first 2 legs of it, but if for some reason, you know, they don't let you participate in the last one, you're not going to get the Triple Crown. That's what Canelo's ultimately trying to do. He's trying to close out this chapter at 168 pounds. Caleb Plant's going to extend it. So that's possibly going to give Gennady Golovkin what he's been waiting so long for, and possibly that third matchup against Canelo Alvarez. But if I'm Gennady, I would look at it this way. You're not getting it based on the fact that you're a marquee fighter in a sense to where this is where his direction's going. You're just the keep busy fight for him. And it's unfortunate, but that's how Canelo, I think people are looking at the keep busy fight, the big money fight where people are going to be interested in, because Canelo's not going to go fight some just nobody. That's not what he's going to do. He's going to look for another marquee. The only other marquee name out there right now he can fight is Gennady Golovkin. And we'll talk about Demetrius. What do you think?
Well, that's the thing though. Canelo he's already said just this past week that if that third fight does happen, it will be at 168. He will not go back down to 160 and fight.
No, because he's not gonna change what he's worked so hard to maintain.
No, he doesn't have to.
Now on the other side, bro, what happens if Gennady Golovkin refuses to go to 168?
Then he doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to fight.
And these are the kind of semantics that are just driving me nuts, because the same question was asked to Demetrius Andre. Demetrius Andre wants Canelo Alvarez to come back down to 160, but he's not willing to go to 168 to seek the fight. You got to go after
and
a
he's
fight.
a physically much bigger guy than Canelo.
I don't get this thing. They're trying to get Canelo to do something like any other fighter. It goes back to the days of Manny Pacquiao and this, you know, these catch weight things where you got a guy, people don't understand. 5 to 10 pounds doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're a boxer and you're trying to sustain your weight, you're getting comfortable fighting at this weight, and your diet's at this weight, and your regimen's at this weight, and then all of a sudden you got to change it all to this and then go back to this. It starts to take a toll on you.
Well, look at Roy Jones. He famously, you know, went up to 200 something pounds, wins the title, comes back down to his original weight and gets knocked out, gets starched by Antonio Tarver.
Destroyed Cal Brooks' career.
Yeah.
Cal Brook did it. Destroyed his career.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more, because I know me and you wanted to kind of touch on this a little bit, but you know, the people that are out there bad mouthing Billy Joe Saunders, calling him a quitter or this and that, whatever. Once again, the one that probably out of everybody that said something, the one that irked me the most was Edgar Berlanga. Yeah. Edgar Berlanga basically called Billy Joe the P word and, you know, this and that. And, you know, and then I saw an interview where he was talking about, you know, in the future, me and Canelo are going to get together and do this. And I think I said something to you guys. I might have put something on social media. By the time you get to Canelo's level, if you ever even get to that, and when I say level, he'll never get to his level. He doesn't have the ability to get to Canelo's level. In fact, he's a shadow of Canelo. But when I say that, when he finally gets ready to fight for a world title, Canelo will be long gone, right up in the sunset. Edgar Berlanga has yet to fight anybody that's even in the top 30. He's yet to fight anybody. Nobody. I've seen at least 4 or 5 of his fights, and I can't even remember the name of one opponent that he fought. So for this guy to get out there and just disparage Billy Joe, call him this, call him that, we're warriors, we're supposed. It's like, what do you mean we? They are the warriors. These are world-class fighters fighting at a world-class level. Yes, you had 17 knockouts against 17 unknown fighters. Let's just put it that way. Guys that nobody has heard of previously and probably will not hear of since. So why is this guy, out of all the fighters out there running his mouth, why is this guy talking?
Well, you know, this goes back to exactly what happened with Demetrius Andre when he interrupted the Canelo post fight press conference. What some fighters just can't seem to get through their head is this. Just because you got fans out there that say, hey, you know, this guy is a great fighter and he's one of my favorite fighters, why don't you fight him? You know, I'm going to tell you why. Because at the end of the day, boxing is still a business. And if the numbers don't add up, it makes no sense. Demetrius Andre doesn't put ass in the seats. Nobody cares. Even though Edgar Berlanga can put ass in the seats, any boxing expert and anybody out there that knows anything about boxing is going to tear that thing apart, because you're absolutely right. Edgar Berlanga's got a long ways to go before he even gets to that point. These guys think that it's not like being in school where you could just cheat off the
Edgar Berlanga just fought an 8-round fight, bro. Why is he opening up his mouth? He's not even
especially against a guy like Billy Joe Saunders, a guy who's already a 2-time world champion and just fought, arguably the best pound for pound fighter right now in boxing. And you got the audacity after struggling to knock out some nobody from, who's probably back working at UPS in Nicholson. Dude, the problem is, bro, is that these guys have that bully mentality. I'm just going to cheat off the wimpy guy next to me and say, well, it doesn't work that way in boxing. You can't just go out there and say, hey, this is who I want. Because in reality, if Canelo flipped the script, if he really did flip the script, or Billy Joe Saunders, let's say, flipped the script and said, you know what? I don't like this big mouth son of a bitch. Make the fight. I don't even care what the money is. Let's see this guy run like chicken shit. They all run. Exactly. I don't want to. I'm so sick of this bullshit. Then you got the Charlo brothers talking their shit on Billy Joe and Canelo. Let me tell you something, guys. There's a part of me that wants to believe in the Charlo brothers, and there's a part of me that is the part that is my sensible side that tells me I know bullshit and I know cowardism when I see it. Let me say it right now. Jamel has got more balls than Jamal. Jamal should be, working over at freaking, at Suave West or something like this, selling, female perfume. He's got no guts. All right. This is a guy who's on borrowed time. As soon as he gets in there with a decent fighter, give him Munguia. Matter of fact, give him anybody in the middleweight division that's not already got one foot outside of the ring, and watch what happens to Jamal Charlo. Go back and watch Matt Korboff, what he did to him, and that'll show you exactly. Now, Jamel, you're talking about a guy who's always clamoring, I want this, I want this. So what does he do? Opens his mouth about Munguia and takes Munguia's scraps. The guy Montiel that Munguia completely destroyed some years back, and at 154 pounds. Jamal is gonna take this guy up at 160 pounds, which a guy's not even natural at. Yeah. See the writing on the walls, guys.
It doesn't make any sense, man.
All bullshit. It's all bullshit. And it pisses me off because these guys are trying to take a fast track to fame, and it doesn't have the ways. Let me tell you now, you can't just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm Floyd Mayweather. You got to have the resume. Look at Terrence Crawford. He's been saying that for the last 5 years, and nobody
listens to him except for his own people. And that's the thing. The problem with the Charlos is they roll deep. You'll never catch them by themselves. Right? No. Like you said, the true sign of a coward is somebody that always has to have 10, 15 guys around him. There's a reason for that.
You saw what happened to Jamal when he was talking that shit on Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs walked up.
Danny Jacobs walked right up on him. He just had like one guy with them.
Yeah.
But that's the difference, though, between, like I said, that's the difference between somebody that just sells wolf tickets and somebody that actually really believes it. Let's talk a little bit about, when you said something about how nobody's paying, they don't put acid in the seats, whatever. Edgar Berlanga is obviously the latest guy who obviously is trying to talk his way into stardom. In boxing, that doesn't happen. If you want to talk your way into stardom, go fight one of these YouTube guys or whatever. And then, you know what I mean? Like that, well, these guys have managed to talk their way into the press clippings, which makes no sense. Teofimo Lopez, and the reason why I'm bringing him up right now is something was just announced today. I don't know if you saw it, but the rumors were kind of swirling a couple of days ago, but they're official now. George Kambosos released the information. His fight against George Kambosos was moved off of the June 5th or June 5th date, I think. It was moved to June the 19th. Why? Because Floyd Mayweather is going to fight a YouTube dork on June the 6th. That alone right there tells you, Teofimo Lopez, nobody gives a shit about you. Nobody cared about you at ESPN except your inner circle. The fact that Triller is going to move you're supposed to be the best lightweight in the world, and you're getting bumped off the platform for Floyd to go fight a YouTube guy in an exhibition. Reality check, man. Reality check.
You know what, bro? You're absolutely right. I'm going to tell you something right now. People like Teofimo Lopez are their own worst enemy. I'm going to tell you why. Teofimo Lopez is coming off a career-high victory over Vasily Lomachenko, arguably one of the greatest fighters of the last decade. What happens? This is what he falls into, George Kambosos. Let me say something right now. He had the momentum to take this to another level. If he would have signed a rematch with Lomachenko, whether he took the fight or didn't take the fight, it was just the intent. would have showed what kind of a champion he truly is. But being the fact that he's not going to fight any of the top guys, he's going to fight this route. People have already turned the page on him. They're done with his bullshit.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Like I said, the proof's in the pudding. If you look at the fact that Triller obviously is having some problems right now, right?
Well, they're having total problems because they're trying to do this bullshit where they're trying to say people that didn't buy the fight, that they're trying to scare people, and it's scare tactics, guys. But here's a bigger issue. The biggest issue is this: Floyd Mayweather. And I'm gonna tell you what sickens me about Floyd Mayweather. Here's a guy that picked and probed, positioned. Let me circle back about Manny Pacquiao and others for so many years, made top quality guys, real boxers, wait half their life, half their boxing life to get an opportunity. And here you're going to give a jackass. I don't care if it's an exhibition. I don't care if it was just a ring war, with one camera, over at their gym in Las Vegas. The man doesn't deserve to be in the ring with you. And it's an insult to the sport. It's an insult to what Floyd has left as far as a legacy. It's not money. Floyd still got money. It's not just about money. He's just a selfish son of a bitch who can't just step aside. He says, oh, I'm just doing it for the entertainment because everybody's locked down on COVID. No, bullshit. We're not locked down on COVID. And then he says, oh, because, I'm excited because, we got Chad Ochocinco is going to be on there and some other young fighters who might take over my spot. No, let's be honest, Floyd. You don't want anybody. You're as selfish as Ali was. You don't want anybody to take your shine, even when your shine faded a long time ago.
And here's the thing. Is it a coincidence that I see, and I've yet to hear an interview from Floyd. I've yet to tune in to what happened with this. I don't even waste my time, bro, watching that. But here's what I'm going to say. Is it a coincidence he did this during Canelo fight week?
Of course.
It's not a coincidence. He did this on purpose because he cannot stand for his. But here's what he has to understand. Canelo has surpassed him. Canelo just broke a record. Canelo just put 3 times the amount of fighters in the seats, fans in the stands that ever attended a Floyd Mayweather fight. Okay, he broke the record. We don't know what Canelo's purse was. It was millions of dollars. Yes, it might not be the 300 million Floyd got for fighting Manny Pacquiao or whatever, but Canelo is comfortable financially. I mean, I don't know if you saw the documentaries recently about his state in Guadalajara and what the guy has. The guy has everything that Floyd has and more. He doesn't need any more money. What he's doing now is building his legacy, and he's doing it the right way. And he's being respectful of his opponents. Even after the trash talk, he wished Billy good. He wished him well. He said, this is our health. This is dangerous. What happened to him, that broken orbital bone, you know what I mean? That could be very dangerous and life-threatening. So he did the right thing. His corner did the right thing. There's no need to throw stones. There's no need to gloat and brag and boast and be Floyd-esque or be like one of these other, like Teofimo or Berlanga. Canelo's got one thing. And here's the crazy thing. A couple of years ago, I kind of thought I saw Canelo going down a little bit of a diva route, but I got to say, the man is humble and he shows humility. And if you look at the way his reaction after the fight, the way he stayed out there, the way he talked to the fans, the way when he was leaving the ring, he just shook every hand, as many as he possibly did, that they would let him. He has the true affection of the fight public. He's the number 1 fighter in the world right now, not just in skills, but
he's a rarity though, bro. Because he's not just the number 1 fighter in the world, but he's the number 1 fighter in the world that people actually adore, that people want to see. He's still got his naysayers out there and stuff. But
you do got some naysayers. Yeah. I saw a couple of things, but
those are the guys I like, Teofimo Lopez and Berlanga. They do more talk. But I'm going to tell you the thing that I did see something in Canelo, and I think Canelo's even got his threshold. And I think Canelo's threshold is done. When Demetrius Andre came into the thing, Canelo showed a different side that you just don't see from Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, like Costa Tszyu and his son Tim Tszyu and others, and Vasily Lomachenko, kind of have this stoic, kind of like very calm. Canelo had enough, and he actually uttered the words to Demetrius Andre, "Get out of here before I kick your effing ass." You know what I'm saying? When Canelo looked at Demetrius Andre and said, "Why should I fight you? Who have you fought? What have you done?" He
Nothing.
Wasn't bullshitting. He's being honest. And even at that point, that's what really infuriated Demetrius's dad, because in reality, in the back of his mind, he's like, man, who have we fought? Nobody.
So his biggest challenge was a non-challenge because the fight never happened. The fight with Billy Joe Saunders never happened.
But you see, there's an underlining that a lot of people don't understand. And there was only one other fighter in this present time that we're doing it that almost achieved it. and that was Vasily Lomachenko. When he was going for the unified lightweight title, he was going to do something that hadn't been done. Canelo's going after that. Floyd never did it. Okay,
Floyd never did it.
None of these guys have ever done it. They might. Teofimo may have, acquired 3 titles from a fight, but he didn't go out and take the time to match up to fight champion after champion after champion,
like Costa Tszyu did.
Like Costa Tszyu did, exactly. This is what Canelo's doing. He's going after every present champion. I hate to say it. If David Benavidez was holding on to a title right now, he would be in line. Would Canelo Alvarez be successful? I don't know. I don't think so. In my personal opinion, no. But will he take that fight to seek glory? Absolutely. Because that's what he wants. He wants to come back and say, listen, I unified the 168-pound division against undefeated champions. Callum Smith, undefeated. Billy Joe Saunders, undefeated. I mean, it is what it is, man.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I mean,
he settled into that division. That's the division he's going to fight at. That's where he feels comfortable. And I think there was for a long time, I don't know, said, man, can he go up to 168? Can he go up to 175? Now, granted, the 175 thing, I think is still a little too big for him, even though he did beat Kovalev. There's some guys at 175 I think he could beat. I think based on the performance lately of Dmitry Bivol, I think he beats Dmitry Bivol. 2 years ago, I would have said no. Now, yes. But he's settled in at 168. This is his division. He'll fight at this division when he unifies, and who knows? And maybe he goes back down to 160. Maybe he fights a catch.
I honestly don't ever see Canelo going down to 160 for one mere reason. He doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to do anything at this point.
He's built his reputation to where he's going to sit on his throne, and if you want to take his crown, you need to go through the ranks, through the guards, and get up there to where he's at. Demetrius Andrade at the end of the day, if Demetrius Andrade wanted this fight, he would go in there and take a 168 pounder, a legit 668 pounder, prove that he's worth, and possibly get that fight. Okay. Same thing with Gennady Golovkin and so many others. But you see, they're not doing that. So how much do they really want the fight? The king's not going to come to the pauper's house to break bread. No. It's not the way it works, man.
No.
But the thing is that, and getting back to what you were talking about with Floyd, when he does this bullshit, like the antics that he did with this idiot, I'm not going to mention this moron's name, on the night where boxing was shining to try to take some of that luster off and try to put it on him, shows the disrespect. As far as I'm concerned, Floyd's presence in boxing is that of Gene Simmons in heavy metal. You may have sat on there for a while, made a lot of money, and fooled a lot of people for a long time, but eventually people saw through your bullshit and saw you were all about money and never gave a shit about what you so preached that you loved.
Yep.
So goodbye.
Exactly. Goodbye. At this point, Floyd has just become a sideshow.
Floyd.
Become a sideshow.
Done with you, dude.
Gene Simmons and Kiss, they're a sideshow. They've been a sideshow for 30 years. But you know what I'm saying,
though, bro? That's right, though. I mean, that's a great analogy because, I mean, let's be at the end of the day, Floyd's going to continue to do this bullshit, And what happens? Here's the bad thing about it. You can have those tremors, those things that can happen in the sport that can ultimately affect a sport, whether it be in baseball with a betting scandal or in football with a steroid or a rape scandal, in boxing. Okay. That's why it's so important that we separate this joke that Thrilla's doing and legitimate boxing, because if for some miraculous reason, this moron lands a big punch and puts Floyd to sleep, they're going to be like, oh, well, you know what? This guy just beat the all-time greatest of boxing. Bullshit. He's not. He was the pound for pound. Okay. Let me explain one more thing. Just because you're pound for pound best, and this includes Canelo Alvarez, doesn't mean you're the best fighter in boxing. Because Canelo Alvarez doesn't last 2 rounds against Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury. End of story. Doesn't make you the best fighter.
True.
Okay?
True.
Or the toughest guy. You want the toughest guy? Go after Tyson Fury. Throw a shitload of money. That gypsy.
Go after Deontay
Wilder. You really want to get hit? Go after Deontay. Fighting a guy who started his career at 126 pounds is not going to prove shit to shit. He's an old man, past his prime, hasn't been in with a legitimate fighter in a long time. Manny Pacquiao, Canelo Alvarez, all these guys are laughing all the way to the bank as Floyd discredits and destroys what he worked so hard to build.
Yeah, and like you said, bro, it's his ego. He just can't. He cannot age gracefully. He's like a woman that just keeps getting plastic surgery over and over and over again, or a man. It could be either. I don't want to sound.
You know why the whole thing broke between him and his uncle, right? Roger Mayweather, right?
No,
Roger. You know him. They kind of had that little separation towards the end.
Yeah.
Roger wouldn't have nothing to do with this circus sideshow, because before Floyd was gracing the ring, making millions of dollars, the Mamba was winning world titles. A guy who really gave his all to boxing, who respected the sport of boxing to the day he died. He may not have agreed with them or whatever, but the guy was boxing. He wouldn't have no part of this bullshit that Floyd was doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, whatever legacy Floyd had, he's just continuing to tarnish it. And it makes for good TMZ fodder, but most boxing fans I know don't watch TMZ or care to watch TMZ. It's just an insult. Every fighter, every trainer that I know, I won't even ask them about it. But in the past, I've asked them about certain things, and they won't even waste their breath to discuss it. That's nothing. Why are we even talking about that? That's just a sideshow. That's Triller. That's just the freak show. But here's the thing, though. The Floyd thing is not even on Triller. Apparently it's on Showtime. Pay-per-view. And like I said, so, Triller comes in and says, well, the new kids on the block, we're going to do this, or we're going to throw our weight around. And then Floyd shows up and signs this ridiculous fight. And right away, Triller has to change all their plans and push the fight to Fimo Cambosa's fight.
Shame on Showtime, though. But then again, Showtime,
I'll give him this mulligan, but because I'm excited about that. We have a great fight coming up this weekend on Showtime. I believe is it Fox or Showtime? Figueroa versus Pantera Neri.
Yeah,
Saturday.
Real quick, bro. Before we jump to that real quick.
Because
Eric the Red sent in his thing for the fight. About what how he felt the fight was going to go.
Oh, okay.
With the thing. So I thought we would go ahead and play that real quick. It's only about 4 minutes long.
You sent the video?
Eric the Red talking about Canelo-Saunders.
Hey, fight fans. This is Eric the Red. I'm sorry I can't be there on the live stream tonight, but I just wanted to kind of give you my take on a couple of the fights from DAZN this last weekend. So first and foremost, Canelo, good job. Fantastic job. True champion, true pound for pound champion. My brothers and I have been saying that for a very, very long time. There's nobody better in the sport right now. There just isn't. He's amazing, and I'm calling it before the fight is even made. Him against Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant goes out in 3 rounds.
Eric the Red's been hot too, man.
He is. Anyway, all that being said. Canelo did exactly what he wanted. I called it for the 6th round and actually ended up going to 8 rounds. So Canelo, I'm a little pissed off. You wasted 2 rounds on me. No, I'm just kidding. But Saunders, let's talk about Saunders real quick. What a disgrace to the boxing fans out there. What an absolute disgrace to the boxing fans. After all the crap you talked, all the mouth and sticking your finger in Canelo's face and the whole works, it's a joke. You're a joke. You've never been a good champion. 30-0, yeah, I could be 30-0 also if I'm fighting, guys on the way down or guys with no chance in hell of beating you. Go back to the UK. Go ahead and fight your fights over there. You're going to still get a couple of paydays here and there, but you were never a good champion. Quite honestly, I don't think you're very good, period, because you've never really faced any tough opponents. Then you get in there with the pound for pound champion. You think you're going to be all this and that, and he just disgraces you. So you don't even get up off of your stool. I could read lips, and you were like,
now I could see where Eric, where he's going with this, because I know there was a lot of pissed off fans because there was a lot of trash talking, mostly from the Saunders camp going into this fight. The empathetic, the human aspect of us wants to say, hey, you know what? It was a terrible injury. Saunders people did the right thing. But at the end of the day, let's be honest. There's been guys out there with some pretty bad injuries. And Saunders didn't show a whole lot of gusto to want to get back in the ring again. So I see where Eric's kind of coming with this. It's like, if you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk. So let's go ahead and finish up.
No, I can't. No. I can't. What a wuss. What an embarrassment to the sport. Don't ever come to the United States again. Stay in UK. Anyway, The fight right before that, I'm gonna just talk about. I believe it's Tamaguchi and Koto. Um, Koto was
Soto.
hitting Tamaguchi, the Jap.
Yeah, he got the thing wrong in there, but we pretty much, because I know we're running out of time here, but no, I could see where Eric, where our brother's coming off with that,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people were. Now, when you hear from other fighters, that's where it's being disrespectful. When you hear it from fans, it's because fans are fans of Canelo, and they're like, hey, you talked all that shit, and this is what happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so I could see that in a sense, but that's that. So you were talking before we rudely interrupted you. Brandon Figueroa, Luis Nery.
This Saturday.
You got a prediction on that, bro? Because you usually don't predict. You're not a big prediction guy, but I'd like to see what your take is on that.
You know what? I'm still really conflicted on this, because I know that on paper, Neary's supposed to be the stronger, more established, more, just the overall, just the bigger, better fighter. But I kind of thought that with Oscar Valdez, Miguel Berchelt, and look, I had egg on my face, because I mean, it didn't happen the way I thought it was going to happen. So something tells me Figueroa's got a lot to fight for. The kid takes a lot of shots, but he is tough. The kid's tough, and he stands there and trades. Maybe he's got a little bit more to fight for now. The fact that what happened to his big brother Omar a couple weeks ago, that's probably still stinging and still fresh. So I don't know, man. I'm gonna say that Neary wins the decision or a late stoppage, but I won't be surprised if Figueroa somehow miraculously pulls it out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you to the most part. I think Neary is another guy that's kind of he's an enigma. He's got that Miguel Berchelt thing going on. He's been so dominating at that division, but not a lot of people know about it. It takes a fight like this in order to really kind of let people know. Hopefully he doesn't have the same result that Berchelt had with Valdez.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back to Neary's previous fight against Aaron Alameda. Now, Alameda was a tough guy, but he was a guy who was coming in, but that was a questionable. Neary was hurt multiple times in that fight against Alameda. Now, you go back to Brandon Figueroa, same situation. One fight before, when he fought Julio Ceja, they went to a draw.
That fight could have been a lot of people thought he lost that fight.
I thought he lost the fight. I thought Ceja won the fight. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. He takes a lot of punches. I don't think he takes quite as many punches as his brother Omar does.
Especially in that last fight.
Hopefully he has a better camp and a better game plan than his brother Omar did. And I feel bad for Omar Figueroa. But don't come out here in that, whatever I call the funky Figueroa freestyle dance or whatever it is. Don't do it. Just go out there and whatever you've been doing.
He's more polished of a fighter. He's more traditional stand-up jab, traditional fighting style. Omar, whatever fighting style he's had these last few fights, I don't even know what it is.
I tell you, the one thing I think is gonna be the kind of like that Achilles heel for Brandon Figueroa. It's gonna be the power. Neary brings power to the ring. It's not just one punch knockout power. He has power. Figueroa is more of an accumulation puncher. I think it's going to come down to that, because Figueroa, I think, is going to get suckered into a shootout with Neary.
Yeah, and like I said, he'll stand there and he'll trade, and that might be his downfall.
But on the other hand, Neary's a pretty polished boxer, like Berchelt. Berchelt was never given credit for his boxing skills, and Neary could do the same thing. I'm excited to see it. I'm kind of torn because I like Neary, but I'd hate to see both Figueroa brothers go down. And the
undercard's still coming together. I know I checked BoxRec yesterday, and I think I don't know if the other bouts were they're probably still putting them together right now. They better hurry, because there's only a few days till that fight. But the fight's going to be here in Carson again, the same place that Arreola Andy Ruiz took place. So
is it going to be open, or is there still restrictions? I don't
know.
No,
it's going to be open. It's going to be open like the Arreola fight was. The tickets won't be as much. They overpriced the Arreola Ruiz tickets, and I think that was by design.
That's Saturday, right?
This Saturday.
Looks like we might have to go to Carson, dude.
Yeah, if the tickets are reasonable, I'll go. Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I'm still hoping they put that undercard out. Maybe you can go to TGB's website, and maybe they have something more updated. I'm not really sure. I could probably get the bout sheet once it's done from Eric.
I will actually have it. I have it.
They have it up now?
Yeah, I got it. So on the card itself, it starts off, you got a couple young guys, Cardona going up against Tejera, Gabriela Fondora. I believe that's Sebastian Fondora's sister who boxes. She's fighting. She's making her pro debut. Jose Valenzuela, who's a 7-0. He's going up against Nelson Hampton. Then you got Xavier Martinez, who's an upcoming super featherweight, going up against former champion Juan Carlos Burgos. That's going to be a good fight. Then you got super bantamweight Daniel Roman, former champion, going up against Ricardo Espinza France, the former champ too. So not a bad card.
Okay, yeah. So better than the DAZN card, at least on paper. At least
I mean, there's no
recognize
Frank Sanchez on there. There's no sluggy, slow. It's gonna be a firefight. It's gonna be a shootout and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and the main event should be a good fight.
Well, Daniel Roman. That's a guy.
Daniel
right
Roman,
there.
yeah. Daniel Roman's a tough guy.
He's a tough guy, and the guy he's fighting against too, man. That's gonna be a tough one. that's gonna be a shootout right there.
And then the following week we got Josh Taylor, Ramirez, Zepeda. Hey, real quick, we'll close on this because we're about 10 minutes over. But what did you make of the opponent that was finally approved for Chon Zepeda? He's fighting Hank Lundy.
I'm kind of torn by that because, and I bet you Johnny, honestly, he would be the first. It almost makes me think like, did John Molina give a call to Top Rank and tell him, hey, I know a guy that's a pretty tough guy, don't get me wrong. Hank Lundy is nowhere a shot fighter. He's still a dangerous fighter. Hank Lundy still has some thread left on those tires. But I got to kind of look for his safety. I mean, let's be honest. Hank Lundy is not going to resemble the strength of Baranchek, and Zepeda just showed what he can do. Hopefully Chon doesn't get down for this fight, meaning fight down, thinking that this is just easy work. Because at the end of the day, remember, Hank Lundy's a Philly fighter, man. And those guys, they peak at weird times. So don't ever take anything for whatever it is.
Just when I saw that, I was so shocked. I said, wow, they wouldn't. I mean, I know that Hank's been on a win streak lately. He's been fighting some smaller fights and whatnot, but it really kind of shocked me. But, hey, I mean, Chon, like you said, Chon just has to stay focused, stay disciplined, just handle his business. Don't let anything derail you. Don't put in a bad performance. Don't get caught. Don't do something silly that's going to derail everything that you've worked hard for these last couple of years, because they've been feeding him tough the last couple of years as he's waiting to get that rematch against, either the Ramirez rematch or the fight against Taylor. So,
yeah. And like you said, Hank said, he's had a couple of victories and stuff since that loss to Sparrow and stuff. And obviously he had that loss to that Ahmed was actually could have went Hank's way. It was a pretty close fight, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't see Chon. This is a stay busy fight. No disrespect to Hank Lundy or his people, but it's a stay busy fight for Chon Zepeda. Chon Zepeda's got his sights set on the winner of Josh Taylor and Ramirez. I know that if Chon Zepeda's got a Secret Santa on the side and stuff like this, he's got one name on it, and that's Ramirez, because I think he wants some payback. He wants to give Ramirez some payback.
I agree. I agree.
So I mean, we'll see what happens, but it's going to be exciting, and
yeah.
One other thing I was going to tell you real quick. We could talk briefly into it with the next segment. I'm getting some more updates and stuff right now, but it looks like there's a possibility the fight's going to get signed here within the next couple of days with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. No guarantees, but it does look like Luis Ortiz is going to be the next opponent for
Andy Reese.
So hats off to Andy Reese and the Reynosos, but I'm gonna tell you right now, honestly, it's a lot of boxing people are already saying it right now. It's not a good decision on Andy Reese's side to go in there, especially showing the vulnerability against a guy like Cristobal Arreola. Not to say Chris isn't a hard puncher, but he's not King Kong Ortiz.
No. And by his own admission, he would say he doesn't have the boxing skill of a King Kong Ortiz either.
Well, I saw somebody
and the tricky southpaw.
Yeah, I saw somebody say something like, well, Andy shook off all the rust on Arreola, so now he's going to show the real Andy Reese. No, he's not. He's not going to show any better version. It just might end a little bit more dramatically and a lot more painful.
Yeah, agreed.
Agreed. It is what it is. But all right, brother, man.
All right, bro. Good show
today, man. Go ahead and call us out, man.
Yeah, for everybody, thanks for tuning in, man. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help us out, folks. Come on. God damn it. What do we got to do? Send you each a quarter? Cupcake and cookie? Nah, we're gonna keep plugging away for all of us Into the Ring Live. We'll see you guys on Sunday, 5:00 on the West Coast, 8:00 Eastern. For Mighty Mike
and AJ Rage, Eric the Red's not here, and once again, condolences to the Brennan family for the loss of Colt Brennen and stuff.
Rest in peace, Colt Brennen.
Rest in paradise, champ. See everybody on Sunday, 5:00. Later, brother. Bye.